To improve the functionality of the form and make it easier for a user to input data, we'll need some validation on some of these fields. In other words, some rules behind some of the fields that test what data is entered and make sure it's correct. For example, let's look at this floor field. We know from the scenario that the floor must be a number between 0 and 4. So we're going to put a validation rule to make sure the user can only input numbers between 0 and 4. Validation rules go in the Data tab on the property sheet in the validation rules section. There is a expression builder for this, but I actually know the keyword to use, and it's like structured English, so let's try it out. Between 0 and 4. So between and the word and are keywords. 0 and 4 are the variables I put in, and we need to put some validation text, which should be the message that pops up if the user puts in something incorrect. Must be between 0 and 4. Okay, let's see what that does. So I'm in my form. Let's change an existing record. So I'm going to make that 5. Let's see if we can move on. And we get an error message saying it must be between 0 and 4. So that's the basic validation on that one. Let's look at a little more complex validation rule using and we're going to have to use the expression builders to get this correct. The specification says the opening date. The rules is the opening date must be greater than or equal to the 15th of the 11th 2010, and at the same time it cannot be greater than 3 months from the current date. So there's a couple of conditions we need to satisfy there. Once again, so I've clicked on the field, gone to its property, gone to the Data tab. Let's have a look at the validation rule. Let's use the expression builder, and we know that, so let's put the greater there. So greater than or equal to, so let's get rid of the expression, greater than or equal to is what we're after. So what this is basically saying is anything that's entered into this field must be greater than or equal to, and now we've got to say what. Now you have to use this way of entering what's known as a literal. The date we're going to enter is a literal date, it's not an expression, so we put the hash in front of it, then we type in the date, 15th of the 11th 2010, and put a hash to finish. So that part of the expression is saying whatever's entered must be greater than or equal to the 15th of the 11th 2010, but we know there's a second part as well, so we'll put an and in. So not only have we got a greater than or equal to that, and now we've got to find out how to work out, we've got to calculate or get access to calculate a date 3 months from the current date, i.e. the date that the user is entering something. So there's a function we have to use for that. But first of all, I'm just going to put in the rule. We know that whatever they enter must be less than or equal to a date that's 3 months from the current date. Now we need a function, and there is one of the built-in functions called dateAdd. Let's have a look at, and I'm going to narrow it down. So we're now looking at built-in functions, date and time functions, and we're going to look for dateAdd. Sorry, I've double clicked on that. Let's just get rid of that one. DateAdd. As the name suggests, what dateAdd does, it takes any date you enter and then adds on a certain number of days or months or even years, depending on what you specify. Let's fill it in. So the function dateAdd has appeared in our expression builder at the top. You can look this up on the internet, but the rule for adding months is you put a single M. So we're telling the dateAdd function add a number of months to the current date. The number of months we enter there, so we want a date that's 3 months. Now we've got a problem, because here is where we want to enter the current date, but we don't want to type it in because it's got to be the current date at the time the user is entering their data. Well, fortunately there's another built-in function which is called date, which I don't have to look up, but I know what it is. It's date and you just have open and close brackets, and that returns whatever the current system date is, the date the user is entering it. That looks okay, but let's have a quick look how it comes out in the expression. So now if you look in the validation rule, we've got greater than or equal to 15/11/2010. Remember the hash on either side, the hash signs, because it's a literal, and then the function date add month, so add on months. How many months? 3 months. And what do we add it to? We add it to the current date. So now we've got that validation rule working in our open date field.